and welcome to the Algarve for this second round of the Porsche Club of America's Sim Racing Series Challenge Class here in Season 13. After the opening round at Daytona 2 weeks ago, it's Joshua Jefferson who takes in an early championship lead into this second round of the championship after winning by nearly 8 seconds 2 weeks ago. In a race he dominated really, especially throughout the second half. This time round could be a completely different story, so let's find out with myself, Ian O'Leary, joined by Mike Nowles for this round of the championship. Good to be alongside you for this one, Mike. Second round of the championship, everybody's still getting used to the series, everybody still getting used to the other drivers on the circuit, and still a lot to play for in this season that has a very long way still ahead of it.
It certainly does, and with that, of course, we move from Daytona, a track that's a bit of a roval, of course, everyone's familiar with, to a circuit that couldn't be much more different. We are here at the roller coaster of Algarve, otherwise known as Portimao, 2.8 miles, 4.6 kilometers, 15 corners, 9 to the right and 6 to the left, and as I said, about 295 feet or 90 meters of elevation for these drivers to tackle, and not too many overtaking zones either, Ewan.
That's going to be the key throughout tonight's race. We don't forget, we are joined by Princess Cruises as the 2025 PCA title sponsor, as the official cruise vacation partner of Series 13. They provide exclusive offers, including world-leading itineraries across a fleet of 16 elegant ships, sailing to more than 330 global destinations. Reach out to the PCA concierge team to book your next adventure today by calling 833-679-2188. It is also this season, and of course, the 70th anniversary of the Porsche Club of America, dating all the way back to 1955. 2025 is a very special year indeed for the Porsche Club of America, celebrating as well its 13th season of its sim racing series, here with another 7 rounds across 5 great divisions. By my maths, 35 great races to come this season at these 7 locations. As you mentioned, Daytona couldn't be much more different, to be honest, and we've come to Algarve for the second one, but I think the differences continue on. Mosport in 2 weeks' time, again, pretty different to this circuit. Silverstone and Road America are a little bit more Grand Prix style, but one's a lot narrower than the other. Hungaroring and Imola, also sort of Grand Prix style circuits, but they've both got their own quirks as well, and that will be something for these drivers to contend with. Last time out at Daytona, it was Joshua Jefferson who took the win, as I say, by nearly 8 seconds. Britt Danley was second, just ahead of Antonio De Silva. Alan Hayes and Johan Nye round out the top 5, with Robert Gallish in 6th, Andrew Hillman next. Dave Douglas, who was on pole for that race, ended up finishing down in 8th place, ahead of Patrizio Torrigiani and Ed Trippett, who was dive-bombed a couple of times and the victim of a couple of black flags, I'm afraid, for a couple of drivers, but he didn't get the drive-throughs. I mean, the drivers who did the foul on him, if you like. He ended up in 10th place on that occasion, though. There is the track from the sky. Track conditions about 67 degrees Fahrenheit on the circuit, because it is only 5 to 9 in the morning in the end of January, and even in the south of Portugal, that doesn't mean it's going to get very warm round here. But the drivers will be pleased about that, and the tyres will be pleased about that, because they're going to last throughout the race, which is the positive thing. And as you say, they are in for a big challenge here tonight.
Yeah, they certainly are, and with that, you can see down to the best overtaking spot here on this track. This is going to be through these turns 3, 4, and 5 complex. We're looking down at the Torre VIP corner VIP section there, down the back straight, but now going on board here with Ed Trippett as he begins his lap. On the long run here, it's a long start-finish straight down to Primera, and the first sector, you have to be so cautious on late downhill braking with that first sector winding back around the first corner, second corner, I should say, basically flat out as you get down into Lagos, and then set yourself up for the run down the long stretch towards the VIP.
Yeah, we'll have a lap on board during warm-up when we are having a look at the pole lap time, so don't worry, we'll be riding around on board with one of these drivers at some stage. But for now, it is about qualifying and who is going to qualify where. At the moment, Joshua Jefferson has got the pole position ahead of Dave Douglas, Alan Hales, and then George Poulos, but only 4 drivers within a second in a series as competitive as the Porsche Club of America Sim Racing Series. That is a bit of a surprise, but I guess underlines just how tricky and technical this circuit really is.
Yeah, certainly. The other name that's missing from this equation is Britt Danley. He is somebody who set the fastest lap in the race last time around at Daytona, finished second in the overall with Antonio Da Silva behind. So a couple names here missing from the timing charts, the so-called heavy hitters, at least from round one. We'll see, maybe not quite contending with the various elevation change that they have to deal with here on Portimao.
You do get one drop round in this series, it's worth reminding you, so they can miss this round and still be in towards the pointy end later on, but it means that the races they are here for, they don't have much of a safety net to fall back on, and that is often a problem for drivers. Anthony Di Vincenzo has just been knocked down to 8th place by Robert Galles there, who moves up the order. Di Vincenzo had 2 drive-through penalties 2 weeks ago for incidents with Andy McCune and Jimmy Garamani throughout the race at Daytona. That forced him to finish down the order in the end, finished 23rd on the day. We'll be hoping for a bit better here as we can have a look at his setup. Triple screen on the way towards the line. That's going to be an improvement by looks of things by 4/10 of a second if it counts. Doesn't look like it's going to count. He takes his hand off the wheel. That'll be the end of his session. But there is his sim rig. I'm sure we'll be inspecting that a little bit later on.
Yeah, I love the driver cams here in PCA. You get to see not just the emotion the drivers have, but as you mentioned, the setups, all of the various gizmos and gadgets in the background, the Lego sets here and there, and all the various nerdy hobbies that all of us do take part in as well.
Yep, absolutely. Nicholas Donoghue, meanwhile, makes his way over the line as well. Got to say, apart from the top 4, it's very close from 5th place down to 14th. There's only 7 temps covering those drivers. So that just shows you that it really is about the front 4, I think, getting away from the rest rather than the others not getting to grips with this circuit. Here's Patricio Torrigiani, who is the leader of that 13 driver grouping, covered by just 7 tenths of a second, I should say. Torrigiani qualifying this time out a bit better than he did at Daytona. He was sent towards the back pretty early on because he went off for the International Horseshoe on the opening lap, so had to recover from that, but still finished 9th. This is a good qualifying then, all in all, for him to be up inside the top 5, although notwithstanding the names you mentioned earlier who are missing.
Yeah, and just starting out Sector 3 here so far, just been keeping an eye on the lines. It's not the most tidy lap here from Torrigiani, but it's not the worst one either. You can see that Italian flag Porsche absolutely brilliant here as it goes through the final corner complex now, on through Sagres and through Gulp, onto the start-finish straight. And we'll be seeing here, are we going to see any form of improvement? No, we're practicing our pit entries, a man of my own heart.
Just ask Mike Sachs. You certainly need to practice your pit entry, I should say, before this race. You do have to make one throughout these races because the cars are limited to 70% of their usual fuel tank. And Mike Sachs, for those who wasn't watching last night, hit the back of somebody on the way into pit entry, so everybody be trying to avoid that. Joshua Jefferson has taken pole position for the first time this season then here at the Algarve, ahead of Dave Douglas, who did so last week. Alan Hales and George Poulos, the only other drivers within a second on row 2, ahead of Patricio Giorgiani and Alex Ledbach, who are on row 3. Robert Galles and Anthony Di Vincenzo are sharing row 4, both in the northeast-ish of the country. Then it's Nicholas Donoghue and Johan Nye sharing row 5. Vernon Messer and Jeffrey Block just missed out on a top 10. Ed Trippett qualified 13th ahead of Andrew Hillman, with Lisa Eskridge and Jack Stevenson on row 8. Robert Going is 17th ahead of Andy McCune, who is 18th. The final driver just set a time during that qualifying session. And we'll see whether we get any more starters from the very back, having not qualified on this occasion. So we're now in warm-up. In a few minutes' time, we will be on the grid and getting ready to go. Don't forget they grid up very early here. They do it on the run down towards turn 5 because there's not really a straight part of this circuit from that point onwards. So we've got to do it from very early on indeed. And that means it's going to be a rather long, short pace lap, if that makes any sense at all. Throughout this warm-up session, we will go on board, hopefully, with the pole sitter for this race. Joshua Jepson, the race winner from 2 weeks ago, to take a look on board with the Algarve circuit and just see how one of these drivers wheels it around. But the great thing for these drivers is that, and here it is, the great thing for these drivers is they've been able to learn from the 3 races previous. Tell us a little bit about this circuit here. Mike, on board with Joshua Jepson.
Yeah, this is a true racer's circuit when you get down to it here. A heavy braking zone into the first corner. You can see it's downhill, so easy to lock the rears up. This little corner here, the little kink through the first sector, easy flat with these Porsches. And now this is where you start to set up your overtaking opportunities. Through Lagos into turn 4 here. Get that car to rotate well, early as you can on the accelerator. It's a long run down towards the Torre VIP sector, and another downhill braking zone. Easy to lock up, easy to go into the side of someone if you're going for a move, but that's where you got to do it. It's the best overtaking spot barring turn 1. Now, this is where the roller coaster begins on the uphill ascent towards the right-hander, following it up with Samsung here. Very tricky to get it right. The car constantly wanting to understeer you off into that gravel trap, and you have to get it straightened up. Crest the hill, back down the roller coaster now, up through Craig Jones, towards Portimao. This is going to be a bit of a tricky right-hander, another very understeery corner. You can even see Jeppesen having to walk out a little bit wide from the apex. Now down the hill, up the hill, back down the hill once more after we crest the hill, through the left-hander, up to the penultimate corner of Sagres, where now it's all about patience. Give it a listen here while you wait for him to get on the accelerator as we get ready to go into gallop here, just here. Actually, surprisingly flat out for these Porsche cars, and nice and easy, walk it out wide to the line here for Jeppesen, and that is going to be our fastest lap and Jeppesen's pole time.
Yeah, gallop very much sounds like the noise you'd make on the way into that corner, doesn't it, really? Just about to go over the rise, and you think, oh, and there we go, down back the other side again. It's a real roller coaster of a day going round here for however many laps it is going to be here tonight. Certainly over 30. We're doing under 2-minute lap times round here, so it's going to be not quite dizzying, but it's certainly going to be sickening because of the roller coaster ride that you take around this circuit. In terms of overtaking chances, I've been impressed in these last couple of weeks, I've got to say, with the chances that we've seen. In towards turn 1 has been a bit more of an opportunity than I thought it was going to be at the start of last week. Down the hill at turn 5 was always going to be a good chance, and it has proved to be maybe a little bit less overtaking through 10 and 11, actually. I thought there would be more as you open out that turn 11 and try and get the run back down the hill there, entering the final sector, but that's been a bit less of a chance. But hopefully we can end the couple of weeks of racing round here with a bang and another good race around here, because I've got to say I've been impressed with these 3 races so far.
Yeah, certainly they have been on the ball when it comes down to it. And just looking at lap times, let's compare from Daytona pretty much. The fastest laps all the way down here, or rather, why don't we talk this session as what was the fastest lap? That was one thing actually I forgot to write down. I should probably grab that. But the fastest laps from the previous sectors, or the previous classes, I should say. Bryce Rodriguez, again, on pole with a 141.7. Then in the club class, we had John Gibson with a 142.6. And in the sport class, Olin Murphy with a 143.2. So it's diminishing times as you would expect, but everybody's still very close together when it comes to the top of the fields.
143.7 was Jeppesen's pole time, by the way. Well, that's 5. So that's the closest. Correct me if I'm wrong from your numbers there. That's the closest one pole position time has been to another, if you like. Jeppesen would have had a decent starting position actually yesterday, I think, with that kind of time.
Yeah, absolutely. And yes, you're absolutely right on that. It's about a second difference we're seeing per categories, except for the sport and down into the club here tonight, which is about 5, or excuse me, not the club, the challenge, which is about 5/10 difference.
Yeah. Don't forget, I think something that's making a big difference into your numbers there, by the way, so we have a look at the conditions, only a degree warmer for the race. The fact that you can't change the setup in this series, nor can you in the sport class. When we go racing again at Mosport next week for Pro and Club, the guys who will have chance to tinker with the setups and whatever. But the guys in these two nights, on Wednesday and Thursday, this time round in the fortnight, you don't get the chance to change the setup. And I've got a feeling that will really make a difference. I suppose it made a big difference at Daytona in terms of you can't quite tune the straight line speed quite the way that you would normally. And round here, you can't quite tune the car stability the way that you'd quite want to.
No, you really can't, and it's mainly just, again, you mentioned just how many corners this has, the elevation, every variable, and now this is where the drivers are going to have to try to put it all together. Their setups are going to be solid now. Whatever they've done to them, it's going to be set in stone, and the rest is going to be history, Ewan.
It certainly is. They make their way down towards turns 7 and 8, see what I mean about the early gridding. Got basically the whole of the second and third sector, because there's no flat, straight part of the circuit remaining in the race. If they gridded up, for example, on the way towards turn 9 here, for example, which is this corner, some of those guys at the back would start rolling into other people. That wouldn't be great. So we've got to do it a bit earlier on that way down towards turn 5. And that is then the run uphill through turn 10 and 11. And then you get into the technical final sector. Opening laps this week have been pretty good. Actually, through turn 1, 2, and 3, and 4, it's been pretty good, actually. It's turn 5 where the trouble has tended to come.
Yeah, and that's, of course, again, down to the downhill braking nature of that corner. It's a late lunge. It's an opportunistic one, but it's the best chance these drivers have. You also mentioned turn 1. It's similar, though. It's a right-hander versus a left-hander. That's the only real difference between the two corners. They're both good overtaking chances. They're both hairpins. Kind of the first corner, not really much of a hairpin. But with that, of course, that is the best dive-bombing chance, and we'll see, is there going to be a bit more discretion rather than valor? I certainly hope so, but this series, of course, prides itself for the PCA Challenge here on having clean driving. So anybody that is going to be making any mistakes is going to be getting a firm slap on the wrist.
Absolutely. You get penalties, especially for getting it wrong early on in the race and crashing into other people. So that just helps everybody to keep things clean through the opening lap. Last night, on the way towards the line, we saw people crashing into each other before they'd even reached the start-finish line. Hopefully, it's a cleaner start this time round on the front straight, as Joshua Jefferson is in control of the field for round 2 of the Porsche Club America Challenge class in Series 13. He's waiting a long time for the green flag to fly. He's in control of the field, and now he goes. Chooses his moment wisely and pulls to the middle of the road as he takes the lead decisively in towards turn number 1. He's even able to take the racing line right ahead of Dave Douglas, who's under pressure from Alan Hales in towards turn 1 in the white car. He backs out though, does Hales, and allows Douglas to get back through. Hales is going to be side by side with George Poulos in that case in the purple, and that will be about for third. It's gone wrong. Poulos spins on the outside line. That's exactly what he was trying to avoid down at turn 3.
And Torrigiani also gaining massively here early on. Patrizio up into 4th with Anthony DiVincenzo behind. There we're taking a look at the spinner, unfortunately. We're still green flag racing, though. No issues to be had for Jeppesen or Davis at the beginning. Hales really gave Douglas a run for his money there into the braking zone, but had to back off. Now, as the leaders settle in here, this is going to be the game of slipstream and trying to pull away from the rest of the pack.
It looks like Lisa Eskridge and Andy McHugh might well have gone off together as well, because they're a long way off the back of the pack, and I'm not entirely sure why. We'll get some replays of the opening laps in a few moments' time when things just settle down here. But Joshua Jefferson is leading by nearly a second over Dave Douglas. Alan Hales is third, ahead of Patrizio Torrigiani, who, as he say, has got up to 4th place, ahead of Anthony DiVincenzo. And then it's Alex Lidback, who's got a bit of a gap opened up ahead of him. This is what happened to George Poulos on lap 1.
Let's see as we go through the right-hander here, and it looks like it's completely unforced spin, the 192 car. A very lazy crash, and what I would say is a Porsche moment. These rear-engine cars tend to be very rear-happy, and there we just see the rear end overtaking the front.
Yep, I think your description is a good one for the way that car went around. It does like to do that on occasion. Not quite as rear-engined as it used to be, the Porsche GT3, but it's still quite towards the rear. As they go side by side towards turn 1, DiVincenzo trying to overtake Torrigiani. DiVincenzo has made the most places on lap 1 of anybody in the field, and he was looking for 4th place there, but that was always going to be a tough move into turn 1.
Certainly was. He got it really set up, though. Looking a little bit further back here, this is going to be Robert Galais with Nicholas Dahoun behind. Johan Nye involved here. This is where the pack sort of begins. Ascend, though, from the background here. That's going to be Nicholas just making the 809 overreact. And fortunately for him, Robert gets caught up with the dummy, and he runs off there. Nicely done for Nicholas.
Yeah, nicely done. An overtake without really having to do anything. Just got in the mirrors a little bit, and Robert Galais was sufficiently distracted to brake too late for turn 5. Now he's under pressure from Johan Nye as well, who got a top 5 at Daytona. 5th place it was for him that day. He's now only 9th as things stand. He'll be looking to move forward here throughout this race, but it's quite a group. This is what we saw in qualifying, really. The top 4 away and the 5th place on backwards. Very, very close. And I'd say the top 5 have probably got away this time round in the race, but for the midfield, it's just one long line.
Yeah, the gap's starting to form up in the top 5, sort of. But yeah, beyond that, everyone here you can see is at each other's throat. A bit of a knife fight in a phone booth. And speaking of, looking at this replay here, this is the 75 making contact with the 525 of Andy McEwen. And that was that Lisa and Andy contact that you mentioned. Kind of hard to break down from that angle. What'd you make of that, Ewan?
Looks like, I think it was McEwen on the inside. It looked like the driver on the inside, whichever it was, just came up into the outside and almost spun them both around. I think it was McEwen, as I say. It was there, and it certainly looked like he felt he was at fault as well, because he was waiting there. It looked like he was for Lisa Eskridge to reverse and get back out against the again. Yeah, McEwen's on a very tight line there, almost goes straight on at turn 4. Eskridge goes round for a fairly lazy spin and then eventually will reverse out the wall, but that replay just carried on a bit longer. You would have seen McEwen waiting for Eskridge, and I think that is almost admission of guilt there.
Yeah, very and is always reassuring to the other drivers in terms of, yeah, he recognized he was at fault, but it also gives you that little scare in your mind of, well, that person just dive-bombed me. Do I really want them near me on track? Lisa has no choice in the matter, gonna have to deal with it, but got to give hand credit there to Andrew for allowing that one back here. Another replay of Jack Steffens there getting a little punt from the back end.
Yeah, that was, I think, George Poulos in the purple, if I'm not mistaken, but I couldn't quite see on that shot there from that angle. It certainly looks purple from the front, that car. I don't really know what it looks like from behind, unfortunately. So it was, yes. There he is. That is too late on the brakes. That is the look of a driver who was expecting to run at the front of the field here today and hadn't quite thought about the concertina effect down towards turn 5, which, of course, Poulos was running up front earlier.
Yeah, certainly. That was a bit of a mistake nonetheless. Here's a dive bomb, though, from Torrigiani to the inside of turn 1. It was not going to be an overtake attempt for Torrigiani, and he knew it. Just trying to keep Hale's head on a swivel. We saw position gained earlier by trying to sell that dummy to the inside, force an overreaction from the driver ahead, and take the position away like candy from a baby. Thankfully, though, for Hale's here, well, you got to wake up pretty early in the morning to catch him out like that. Torrigiani down into Torre, no real overtaking chance. He just backs out and lets himself hang on here for the next lap.
He will live to fight another day here. He'll come back again later. Further behind, Andrew Hillman is into the top 10 as he passes Jeffrey Block in the 3.89. There is that battle on the bottom of your screen for those positions a little bit further on down. That's Johan Nye in the sort of dark green, black and dark yellowy, whatever you want to call those colours. Then it is Andrew Hillman, who is newly into 10th place in the red and white, followed by Jeffrey Block, Vernon Messer, etc. The rest of the field. Again, the midfield, very, very exciting, but it's good that we've got some leading battles here. Looking at the inside, Torrigiani on the top of your screen in the Italian flag. Oh, trying to get through, but he just got the traction wrong there. Out of the third last corner, had a half spin. He's covered it up, now he's going to have a full spin. He's gone too deep into the penultimate corner through Sagres. Don't rejoin in front of these guys, he needs to wait. And he's going to, oh goodness, he's going to take a risk, and he does just about get away with it. Unfortunately, though, he will lose his spot inside the top 10.
That was a man on a mission, and unfortunately, he overdrove that car to the nth degree. Battle for third, though, as we're looking at Alan Hales and DiVincenzo now. The battle is not done for Hales. The 420 down to the inside, late on the brakes, but was it too late? I think he's gone deep off the circuit. Certainly should be handing that position back. And there you see, to the inside, he gives the 74 the line. Is he giving him the position? No, I don't actually think he is. This is still a defense. The 74 going to get overtaken, presumably off the track.
I would say that is worthy of giving the place back as well, but he's being able to fight for this. Alan Hales is going to get down the inside, and I think he would have got his place back anyway, looking at that. But there you go, they're back how they were. I think Anthony DiVincenzo could have been a bit nicer in terms of just letting Hales back through again there, because you're right, he went straight off the road at turn 1, and if you gain a place by using some of that tarmac on the outside of any corner, but especially turn 1, then you should be giving the place back. In the end, DiVincenzo is back down to where he was, but he was just trying to take advantage, and you can't blame him. Take advantage of the battle that Hales just had with Torrigiani. He was a bit out of shape, Hales, after this spin for Torrigiani, and DiVincenzo was able to take advantage of it all.
Yeah, and speaking of Torrigiani, he's managed to recover into 12th position down there, a little bit further down than he certainly would have liked, but with a recovery drive ahead. I still do think that that was actually DiVincenzo giving the position back down the long stretch, but honestly, I'm not sure. It's a 50-50 in terms of it. Regardless, the results are the same. That's all that matters. There is the man himself, though, Torrigiani, as he tries to claw his way back through the field.
Yeah, pretty brave of him to be on the outside line there through the penultimate corner. Since what happened to him last lap, it's easy to be a bit fearful of the turn for the next few laps, if not the rest of the race. But Torrigiani's got away with it that time round. He's held it down nicely, and he's now into 11th place, ahead of Vernon Messer and Ed Trippett as well, who's in 13th as things stand. As far as I'm aware, we don't have any penalties to have served so far. I haven't seen anybody taking any drive-through penalties. That means we've got through the first 10 minutes. Mostly clean. Few incidents here or there, but it's mostly been clean, and everyone's been out the stewards room so far.
It's awesome. You don't really expect that necessarily from the challenge classes. Of course, you expect that from every class, to be completely honest. Everyone here, we've seen incidents left and right, which of course that's racing and happens. We're not saying that anyone's necessarily at fault for that. It's just the way that the cookie crumbles. And with that, of course, penalties fall right with it. But this is a lovely little ding-dong battle for 5th position. We're currently looking at Alex Lindback as well as Nicholas Deneau and Robert Galis all having a little bout here, and I think the 809 has set himself up in the best position to gain the advantage. Allow these other two cars to battle it out and then clean up the scraps to the best of your abilities.
Yeah, a little bit wide there from Donahue, I think that is. Yes, it is just ahead of Robert Galles there, who's in the rather striking yellow and black livery. Not sure what kind of pattern he's got going on there, but he's distinctive. And as commentators, we are not going to be complaining about that. Through the final corner, he now goes, trying to get that run on the 9 car, but not able to do it, I don't think, this time round. None of them quite maximising the exit there, but it's difficult to do. As I mentioned earlier, you can't really see where you're going until you're back down the other side, and at that point, it is probably too late if you've got it ever so slightly wrong. Should just tell you, by the way, that Judge Poulos is out the race after a long stop earlier on. After hitting Jack Stevenson down at turn 5, he decided to come back to pit lane, and that was that as far as his race goes. Meanwhile, Joshua Jefferson just came under a lot of pressure for the lead from Dave Douglas on the way, I think, towards turn 5 at the time, but they're a lot further around the racetrack now. They're again going side by side as Towers, to be believed. Douglas just applying that pressure a little bit, in much the same way, actually, that Jefferson did to Douglas early on in the race at Daytona.
Yeah, currently looking at the battle for 6th and I think 9th right now, but the battle, currently Dave Douglas taking the lead of the race, or at least briefly here. They're still side by side, and I think Douglas now is going to be our new race leader. We'll certainly have to pull up a replay to gain that, but there is the man, the 42, the answer to everything, it seems, right now.
There he is in the lead. He was applying that pressure for a while. You can see he's had that fastest lap for a little while in this race, and now he's been able to make it count. Now, only a corner or two after, or a lap or so after he'd taken the lead from pole position at Daytona, he went for a spin out of turn 1, which allowed Jeppesen to take the lead, which he didn't really relinquish after that. So let's hope that he lasts more than a lap in the lead this time round for Dave Douglas, and let's hope that if it does end, it's not going to be ending in a spin for him this time round. This is how it happened. There was some previous to this where Douglas was applying the pressure. So previous to that, Jeppesen was on the defensive towards turn 5. Then he's on the defensive through 6, 7. This is turn 8 on the brakes, pretty late. Then Douglas gets the run up the hill, and it's a very good run. Nice traction down the other side, down through turn 9, outside for here, but you're okay with that because you'll be on the inside for 10, 11. That was very well done indeed from Dave Douglas.
Hard-working overtake, but a high-speed, high-commitment pass is what you need around the track of Algarve, and Dave Douglas getting the work done when the getting gets tough, and that's what you need to see in a true champion driver. We know Josh Jeppesen, he's coming off the back of a victory from Daytona, so he wants to make this a second win. He'd love to start the championship out with 2 wins in a row, but Dave Douglas has no intention. In fact, Dave finished 8th in the previous round, did the number 42 car, so he is making massive improvements from the last.
He certainly is, and that is going to be very pleasing indeed for him. Although I would say his pace is very similar to what he showed early on. It was just the coming back through the field after his spin that was a bit tricky for Dave Douglas. Not forgetting that he took the pole position at Daytona. That was very deep on the brakes from Di Vincenzo, who got very close to Alan Hales there for 3rd place, but he's not going to be making passes with moves like that. That is Andy McCune, by the way, who is a lap down already, having made an early pit stop. He is now being lapped by 3rd and 4th place as well, and I'm not expecting lap traffic to be a huge problem here with the size of the field, but there is your first little taste of lap traffic.
Yeah, and sure, it certainly shouldn't be too much of a play, especially with only 18 drivers on the field with a 2.8-mile circuit. They should have plenty of room to fight it out, but a dive bomb? No, my goodness, that scared me at the very least. I thought we were going to be seeing an overtaking attempt there from Di Vincenzo, but no, he got his head on a swivel, no doubt. What has just happened there to, who was that in the background there? The yellow is that Hillman? Oh, goodness.
Sorry. That's Nicholas Donoghue off the road at turn 3, and he's got to be careful with rejoining here. Further behind, that was Patrizio Torrigiani getting ahead of Jeffrey Block for what was 10th place. It's now 9th because flying off the road there has gone Nicholas Donoghue. That was way too much speed. He was sliding the whole way through the corner, which is why he couldn't slow down. But now he's in this mad group from 6th place on backwards.
Yeah, unforced error all through and throughout to send him off into the gravel there. You got to be more careful on the middle pedal. Back, though, to the battle for 3rd, and Di Vincenzo is looking very hungry, and Alan Hales is looking like a morsel.
Andrew Hillman's off, or at least he's dropping down the field. Shouldn't say they're off because I don't know that, but they are dropping down the field. Andrew Hillman, he was running inside the top 10 pretty comfortably. Now he is not, and I'm not even sure he's running at all in this race anymore. He seems to have dropped from the session. From what I'm seeing on my timing screen, he seems to have dropped completely. This is what happened to Nicholas Donoghue. So he was on the outside line of Robert Gallus, then he got through, then yeah, he just tried to brake on the curb, broke too late, very nearly rolled himself on the anti-cut curb on the inside of turn 3 and ended up in the gravel.
Yeah, very uncharacteristic mistake there from Donoghue, but I think to your point there with Andrew Hillman, I think he disconnected is what it looks like. Just a random DC in the middle of the race. You can call it technical difficulties, technical failure, whatever you want, mechanical. Regardless, it sucks. There's no other way of putting it.
That is the bottom line, unfortunately, for Andrew Hillman. It looks like he has lost connection to the server. Well, that is very unfortunate for him. 43.5 minutes to go here from Portimao, and at this point in the race, we'd like to remind you that we're thrilled to have Princess Cruises as the 2025 PCA title sponsor, as the official cruise vacation partner of Series 13. They provide exclusive offers, including world-leading itineraries across a fleet of 16 elegant ships, sailing to more than 330 global destinations. Reach out to the PCA concierge team to book your next adventure today by calling 833-679-2188. Dave Douglas still leads here from Portimao. just ahead of Joshua Jepson, but this battle for third place is the one we're focusing in on at the moment. It's Alan Hales versus Anthony Di Vincenzo, who has been probing for some time now. It's just a case of when he's going to make this move in some cases. There is another replay of Nicholas Donoghue going off the road. He's already, by the way, back to 9th.
Not a bad effort, not a bad recovery thus far. One thing here, I am certainly keeping an eye on Di Vincenzo because his lap times are commanding. He's currently quicker than Alan Hales on the previous lap, a 1:45.4 compared to a 1:45.3, despite the fact that Di Vincenzo is a bottleneck. He's still trying to slip his way on out and gonna be a little too far behind to make a move into the first corner. But are we gonna see the setup? He seems to be a bit more impatient than he was in the past, but the gap is a bit much, to be honest, Ewan.
There are some quite large gaps considering we're nearly, well, not even 20 minutes into the race at this stage, but the midfield is going to be where the entertainment is going to be for large parts of this race. There's the interval. That shows you there's plenty of excitement to be had within these big gaps from the front, because the pace at the very front of the race has been pretty quick so far. There you can see on that relative as well. I think Andrew Humer's not back, excuse me. He's looked like he might well have retired for good on this race. Trippett, meanwhile, has been dropping back again. He's been passed by Jeffrey Block and Vernon Messer in the last couple of moments. That is bad news for him. He's in the background there, a second off of these guys in this group, so he's clearly struggling. I wonder whether he's struggling with this circuit really more than anything else, because he did all right at Daytona. That's Donoghue finding himself in the gravel for the second time in a matter of minutes. Look at this. Oh, but door banging over the top of the hill after turn 8 as Jeffrey Block tries to take advantage here of Nicholas Donoghue's second error in minutes, and he's gone again. Donoghue's gone for a big spin down through turn 10 and 11. He's sat on the racing line, and now, just trying to go round him. Andy McHugh just about avoids him. Jeffrey Block there spinning around, and he recovers to get back into 9th.
I think that was just a bit of an issue with the nose getting taken off when he went for the overtake. Not Jeffrey Block, the man there that went for the move, just cut over a little too much. And was there contact even? I'm not sure. I think it might have been net code, unfortunately, for the number 9 here. But unfortunately, the results are the same, and it is gutting. And was that Donoghue that ended up falling down the order? I'm still not fully following on that.
He must have done it again then. Very puzzling, actually.
I think Block. Yeah, Block was the one that took the nose off of Donoghue. I think that's where I got confused.
No, I got confused as well there. Apologies. So that was, Block who was hit, but he didn't spin. Nicholas Donoghue did. He's dropped down to 12th, and he's now running on his own, just a second or so ahead of Robbie Gerwin in the 199 car. This is going to continue on, though. It's battle for 9th place. This midfield is getting smaller, the big group, but it's still entertaining. And after that, Jeffrey Block is going to take some time to get back up to speed. This is what happened. Donoghue hitting the back of Block, and that gravel just helping him to spin right the way round.
Yeah, and, thankfully we have some really good stewards here at the PCA, because I certainly would not want to be in their shoes. To me, call it a racing incident. Looking at that camera angle, it looked like Donoghue maybe just carried a little too much speed after the overtake. It's really hard to tell, though, if there was the nose getting caught off or if it was just netcode that caused the entirety of that spin. But again, the results are the same, and Donoghue drops down the order all the way down to 12th.
So he does. And he will, I'm sure, be racing his way back through in pretty short order. Now, this is getting interesting. When Dave Douglas passed, he looked a lot quicker than Joshua Jepson, I must admit. But all of a sudden, Jepson is closing in, especially lap 11 there, nearly half a second quicker than Douglas. It's going to be a little bit now about whether he can consistently harness that, because Dave Douglas's times have been pretty consistent. 45.1, 45.1, 44.8. That is 3 times separated by 3 tenths. That's very good consistency indeed. But if Jefferson can just get that lap 11 pace again and again, if he can just consistently slip into those almost mid 44s, he could be a real threat for this race lead.
I'm almost wondering if some of these drivers at this stage have a tire issue, maybe of some form, because looking at Dave Douglas's lap times, you mentioned they're going up, and they're very consistent, but Jeppesen gaining speed. The battle, though, between Alan Hales and DiVincenzo is the reason that I asked this question, because I made the comment that DiVincenzo was quicker, and he was for a long while, but since I made that comment, call it a commentator's curse, he has not been quicker a single time around, and I wonder if these cars are maybe getting overdriven just a little bit. Has Dave Douglas maybe started that graining phase earlier than Jeppesen, and has DiVincenzo as well?
It's going to be interesting. There's still a very long way to go in the race for that to be really playing a role, but you do never know. It's a very wearing circuit indeed, as we see these guys battling for third as well. Alan Hales and Anthony DiVincenzo still going for it. Hales wasn't at the opening. Hales was at the first race, finishing in fourth place. Didn't feature very often. Pretty quiet day, and again having a pretty similar race here. Consistent, not necessarily on the cameras all the time, but getting a good result out the end of it is what that really matters. DiVincenzo having contrasting fortunes 2 weeks ago, finishing way down outside of the top 20. He's still pressing Hales here, but he's nowhere near as close as he was in the battles we were watching earlier.
No, and like I say, the pace has just fallen off, it seems, for DiVincenzo. Whether or not this is due to maintenance or whether or not this is due to him, well, okay, as we start talking about it, the gap has come back down, but we look further back, and that was that contact that we had earlier. I still oh my goodness, he rejoining that circuit though and threading the needle with the traffic. I still don't know what to make of that one though.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, Block very much trying to defend his place, his newfound 9th place at the time, on the way towards turn 11 at 10 and 11. And well, I think he was within his rights to do that, get on the defensive line and protect that. In the end, it was Donoghue, the one who ended up spinning around. Nick DiVincenzo here, much better line into the third last corner. He's been struggling with that braking zone once or twice, but now look at the pressure that he can apply through Sagres. And then for the final corner, he's just not got the exit though. Look at that. Hales there just pointing the car at the exit and going. Now, can he get a better run here? DiVincenzo's got a nicer, tighter line. Has he got the exit here? He's run the car out quite wide. As long as he's kept a sort of smooth arc, he could have more momentum here and more slipstream as well. There could be a half chance towards turn 1 here, in towards Primavera. No, DiVincenzo knows that this is a difficult opportunity to make work.
But this sets him up brilliantly, though, for Lagos now. All he has to do is stay within a couple tenths. Keep it tidy, keep a good line and a good exit. And now on the run down towards Torre, this is where you can make it happen. A little bit deep, though, for DiVincenzo. That might cost him these crucial tenths that he was looking for, and it certainly is going to. He's a mile back at the braking zone and no chance to go for the move.
He had a good chance there to sort of go wide out of turn 3 and get the inside for 4, but in the end his line was compromised for 4 and he wasn't alongside, so he had the worst of both worlds there, unfortunately, and he loses ground in the battle for third, but he's right back on it again. Hales unnecessarily defending in towards turn 8 there, I feel, and that's allowed DiVincenzo just to close in a little bit further. Through turn 9 they go, and having a look at the inside, DiVincenzo, is he going to get late on the brakes? He is. Here he goes through 11. He's been given a load of space by Alan Hales, but not too much. Hales is still holding the inside line through turn 12, and then he'll have it at 13 as well. DiVincenzo wants it. Oh, they're going to both die for the apex. My goodness, they both really wanted the inside line there, and it's Alan Hales who's got it.
Like a lion on the hunt in the Serengeti, Anthony DiVincenzo just has to keep it on the rails right now. He has the pace and he knows that he's quicker, but it's one thing to catch. It's certainly another thing to overtake, and he is finding a firm dose of reality right now. But the slipstream, the run, down the start-finish straight, into Primera, late on the brakes is going to have to be the chance. Downhill braking zone. Can he get it locked up in time? I think he's overshot the apex. Yes, he certainly has. Did he keep it on track? That's the question. No, he doesn't, and he's going to hand the position back. I think he is going to hand the position back.
I'm not sure. Hales gave it another go for turn 3 there, but he didn't make it work. This is Alex Lidback going for a spin, and he's dropped to 8th place. He was 5th at the time. That's Rohit Gallas going through. There's Patricio Torrigiani, and since then, Johan Nye has also gone through. Lidback rejoined quite wide, and so well, it wasn't the reason Nye went through. Well, anyway, he's through now, and Alex Lidback is down to 8th. There is the battle. The 7th place, a bit further down. I don't even know what colour that 141 car is, what I'd even describe that as, but anyway, he's up to 7th place ahead of Alex Lidback, who'll be recovering, and his tyres will be recovering a little bit as well after that spin.
Yeah, certainly. They'll be getting back down to that regulation temperature as the engineers had drawn it. Now, I just want to touch on that DiVincenzo overtake. I think he kept it within track limits. Looking at the deltas, I don't actually think he went invalid. If that was the case, he was on the line. The 2 tires were right on the limit. I almost wonder if we could get a replay of the tire cam and just to see how close he came to encroaching on track limits for that move. But regardless, a textbook move if he did keep it between the mayo and the mustard, and DiVincenzo has found himself on the podium.
Yeah, I think all 4 wheels of his, all 4 wheels were over the white line, but that's not always the track limits these days because the world's gone mad. So it's it could be a bit difficult for us to quite decipher whether he has actually stayed on the circuit or not. You know what they should really do though is just put some grass down, grow some grass. But,
yes.
Never mind. That's for another day. It would probably go off a bit around here as well in Portugal, but if grass can go off, I don't know what the right word that is, but you know what I mean. It's a real problem down here at Turn 1. Look at all that on the outside line, and there you go. That's exactly what I'm talking about. It's a perfect example from Jeffrey Block. You can run all 4 wheels off the circuit, but that doesn't mean you'll get an off track through Turn 1.
No, you can kind of go out onto the painted tarmac, but the painted tarmac is where that line is going to lie. And of course, they have in-game stewards, if you would like, to kind of count the invalid laps, at least for qualifying and whatnot. Once you get into the race, it still does apply, but it's a bit harder to tell. And just another reason why that I envy our stewards here at PCA, because they certainly have a long day ahead of them, despite the fact that there hasn't been too many issues. The few kind of controversial moments that we have had have been quite controversial and hard to break down, in my personal opinion.
Yeah, don't envy their jobs, but envy their ability.
Absolutely.
Because yeah, it's a great job. Just over 30 minutes remaining in the race here at Portimao, and we'd like to remind you once again that we're thrilled to have the Princess Cruises as the 2025 PCA title sponsor. As the official cruise vacation partner of Series 13, we provide exclusive offers, including world-leading itineraries across a fleet of 16 elegant ships sailing to more than 330 global destinations. Reach out to the PCA concierge team to book your next adventure today by calling 833-679-2188. On board, meanwhile, we ride with Alan Hales, trying to chase Nancy DiVincenzo, but I get the feeling this, to use that previous pun, this ship may have sailed because DiVincenzo looks a bit quicker at the moment.
I'm not so sure about that. We were just watching the brief on board there. He got very close to making a move onto DiVincenzo, but sort of accomplished nothing but getting a bunch of marbles on his tires and then running out of room. Beyond that, he was quite on the ball. The gap, though, disappearing 2 seconds in one corner was not quite what Alan Hales had planned. I certainly do not think. DiVincenzo, though, will be counting his lucky stars and being a little bit relieved here for at least this lap. And maybe now that he's broke that slipstream, he can actually start to pull away. We'll check back a little bit later on that, as right now we are looking at Jeffrey Block. This is a man who has been in strife on this race. Every single time we look at him, Ewan, he seems to be with some form of action, a car behind, and never anyone to look forward to.
Yeah, it's been a lively race so far for certain drivers. Some others, it's been a day of running round on your own. And speaking of doing that, Andrew Hillman is now back in the race, but he's 4 laps down, and he very much will be riding around on his own for the remainder. This, though, is Jeffrey Block, Vernon Messer, Ed Trippett, the 3 who are battling here. Probably the closest battle on the circuit, but they're not even that close. If you were to look at the intervals that I'm doing at the moment between these guys, you'd say, well, they're not very close, and there's no overtake on here. But actually, you can't stay very close around this circuit, and overtaking moves do sort of, I don't want to say come out of nowhere, but they do come up very quickly. So it's actually more encouraging than the timing screen would suggest. Ed Trippett is pretty close in the grey there. To Vernon Messer, I should say, in the grey, in the middle of this trio.
Yeah, this track is like playing chess at 200 miles an hour, or for these Porsches, maybe more like 160 miles an hour, give or take. It's not an easy task that they have to face, and when you're going through these more twisty bits, you have that dirty air to contend with. All that invisible mumbo jumbo that you don't often talk about or see, obviously, is going to be no longer there on the car. And now riding with Ed Trippett here, you can see he's in the VR as well. Look at that man going down into the braking zone. One thing, Ewan, that I've never actually been able to kind of get my head around is VR driving. I've tried it a few times. I never was a fan myself, but I know a lot of people that have ended up going on that train. I'm curious, do you have any experience behind the wheel of VR?
I've tried gaming VR before, but not sim racing before. So no, I don't actually know what it's like. What made me chuckle there, actually, looking at him, is that he spent all that money on VR and a nice rig and a nice wheel and whatever. He hasn't got any headphones. He's just got earphones in. I can't imagine they're very great sound quality, to be honest. I know that they have a mic attached, and he's probably chatting to someone while he's going along, but surely he could grab himself some better headphones there.
Hey, if it's stupid and it works, it's not stupid. Hey. That's the famous saying, right?
I've never heard that before, but I'm going to start using it. There you go. He's clearly comfortable, and he's going all right at the moment. This is the battle for 5th place between Gallus and Torrigiani in towards turn number 1. Torrigiani taking that wider line. You can just see the way he's using the racetrack, although used a bit too much of the racetrack there on the entry towards turn 1. What you want to be doing is sort of straddling the curb, opening out the right-hander as much as you possibly can, then flying through for a move maybe at turn 3, but Torrigiani just broke a bit late and went straight on.
Give some credit, though, here to the Italian stallion of Torrigiani. He has managed to claw his way back through the field as Johan Nye, I think that was, as a spinner in the background, and that was a completely unforced error.
It was Johan Nye, you were right. He got it wrong out of turn 4. Just shows that sometimes these guys don't look like they're on the absolute edge of grip very often, sometimes, but sometimes they do. But on that occasion, it really displays for you just how close these guys are to complete disaster, especially when they're on power out of these corners.
Yeah, and again, I touched on that briefly earlier. These 992s, you mentioned it, Ewan, they do have a slightly tilted back engine compared to the 991 iteration. They're about 5.5 degrees tilted back towards the rear axle, meaning that they're a little more rear-engined, but with the engine still behind the rear axle. It's very likely that if you're too exuberant on the accelerator, exactly what you see on your screen is going to happen.
Do you mean 5 degrees, like that's the way that it's sat on the road, if you like?
Okay, how do I explain? It's tilted back 5.5 degrees. So the plane that it was on before has a 5.5 degree tilt back. I don't know if that makes any sense. But here's an overtake attempt.
I think I can picture it. I need someone with a visual and a whiteboard to explain to me properly. Anyway, yeah, this is a proper battle here now for 4th place, because Jefferson's in. Oh my word, Torrigiani, that was super late on the brakes, but he's pulled it up for the apex. Unbelievable late braking from Patricio Torrigiani. Gallus tries to get him back through turn 4. That was commitment, but it was brilliant from Torrigiani, who planted it right on the apex and gets 4th place.
Lick the stamp and send it. Torrigiani has no intent on finishing below the podium right now. He knows he could have been in the contention for a lead here. But now, though, 23 seconds is where he finds himself to the lead, 10 seconds to the next driver. He's got a lot of work to do in the next 23 minutes and 36 seconds if he's going to find any ground. Let's take a look, though, and just in awe, look at the dive bomb there into turn 3 before the best overtaking chance, and he gets it done.
That's probably the best overtake we've seen over the 4 classes at this circuit. That was absolutely brilliant. The commitment down the inside to make that work, to brake so late and to get it to work. What a fantastic move from Torrigiani. He might even move up another place now, by the way, as Dave Douglas is into the pit lane. Worth just talking about the race leaders, because Joshua Jepson and Dave Douglas were separated by about a second, and they were just holding the margin that what they had when we last looked at them. Now, Jepson has got an undercut chance. He pitted 1 lap earlier than the pole sitter, or excuse me, the second placed sitter on the grid, and the long-time race leader, Dave Douglas. Now, that's going to be the battle for the net race lead when they come out. Pit stop time for Josh Jepson was 18.2 seconds. If you're comparing that to last night, that's a bit on the long side, to be honest with you. What about Dave Douglas? How long is he going to spend in the box? Only 16.8. Surely the race leader is going to retain his race lead. He's making his way down the end of pit lane now. Jepson is nowhere to be seen on the right-hand side, and Dave Douglas has got a healthy lead here.
I'm very surprised that we didn't see the alternate strategies come out. That was both drivers into lane on the same lap. And if you're Jepson, you know that you're not going to be gaining anything from that. But I guess the question there being, were the tires good enough for the long term? I don't think any drivers are going to be taking new sets of boots. I think that was probably just a splash and dash to go to the end. But still, I would have liked to see a little alternate strategy out of it, still after the halfway point. So a bit of variation, not just pitting at 30 minutes, but not allowing himself to, I think, stretch his legs there, did Jepson.
This is Anthony Di Vincenzo. I think this picture is slightly behind, or one of them is. So I can tell he's driving around it. Yeah, there we go. But yeah, that's a little look at Anthony Di Vincenzo's rig setup himself. Triple screen display, as we briefly saw in qualifying. There it is. Looks like he's down in some kind of garage or something. Proper sim room, it looks like he's got kitted out here.
Absolutely love it. And he's got the shifter there, the Fanatec shifter. Of course, other brands are available as well. The very, very fancy setup, though. You can even see, I wonder if there's a bit of motion. No, I don't think there's any motion involved there. But a great angle there of the rig. One thing I'd love to see is some pictures of this. I wonder if we could get the drivers to share their rigs in a channel. Maybe we could get those on stream sometime when we do have a little bit of downtime. In the meantime, though, Alan Hales, he's come into pit lane here now, so finishing his final stomp. Alex Laidback still not in, Torrigiani not in, Di Vincenzo not in yet. So still our leaders needing to pit, but most of the field now has elected for their stop.
Yeah, it was very much the two leaders responding to each other, so that's why they have pitted so early. It does come with the risk, of course, for Douglas and Jepson that they get out in traffic, and that's exactly what's happened for Douglas now. He just wanted to respond to Jepson, and you can absolutely understand that, but now he's got to overtake Nicholas Donoghue, whereas he wouldn't have otherwise had to. There's Jepson in the 73, the pole sitter for this race. Is the pole sitter, is there going to be two drivers who've taken poles and wins in this series, and neither of them on the same night, if you see what I mean? That could be a rather weird quirk of these opening 2 rounds of this championship. There's still a long way to go, though, and I think Douglas passing Donoghue could be quite an important part of that story. If he gets stuck behind it, he can invite Jepson right back into this.
He certainly can, and Jepson will be seeing exactly where he's going to fall in the order here, but of course, where are our leaders when they elect to pit here? I'm curious now, our current leaders, I should say. Where are they going to fall out? Di Vincenzo should be back behind the likes of, well, obviously Hales, I think. Gallus involved there as well. But a pretty close margin, 59-51, so it's 8 seconds between Gallus and Hales. Now looking at the lap times, 2:50. Well, that's not going to help whatsoever, is it? Because we just came out of pit lane. Lap times, not the most useful right now.
Not yet. We will check on when we can. That is a lap car slowing down. That's Andy McCune again, who's going 2 laps down this time round. He has made his stop as well. And staying to the right-hand side, he's in. So Donoghue's in. Now, what is the gap this time round between Douglas and Jepson? I think it's still over 3 seconds. So he's gotten away with that in some ways, Douglas. And he's fortunate in one sense that Nicholas Donoghue has decided to pit in.
Yeah, and now into the lane, so they'll be coming out pretty much, well, not side by side, but within a couple seconds of each other. What is going on here with Di Vincenzo? I don't really know. It looks like getting by a back marker. I'm wondering if that was there with our leader, the 420, currently flying around the circuit. He does need to come in for his pit stop. There's no arguing that. He can't save enough fuel to the end. So I think right now DiVincenzo just needs to, pit at this point. I don't think he's gaining much by staying out.
No, but I don't think he's losing much either. It's kind of meh whether he stays out or not at this point. In my opinion, he's not really gaining or losing anything. He's not getting stuck behind lap traffic, which would really prompt you just to come in. But Johan Nye is quite a good few seconds up ahead here. Nicholas Donohue's still not out the pit lane yet, which is a bit strange, but DiVincenzo is going to be running out of fuel soon anyway, so here he comes. We've got to be reaching the limit soon as far as fuel goes, and DiVincenzo makes his way in. I'd imagine Alex Lippach will do the same pretty soon as well. There is the 9 car of Nicholas Donohue. That was a very long stop for him. 56 seconds has all the look of a speeding penalty to me.
Yeah, 40 seconds added on more than likely for that, and that is going to be gutting, to be completely honest. Any form of battles are now going to be out the window for them. DiVincenzo hopefully does not find himself befitting the same fate.
So we'll give you a rundown once these pit stops have completed themselves, but battles that have immediately re-emerged include the one between Jeffrey Block and Vernon Messer, which should be for 7th place, as long as Alex Lippach doesn't get out ahead of them, which he might, to be fair. He's just coming into his box there in the 11. Oh, he's had to reverse in. Never a great thing to have to do. In the pit box, there goes Alan Hales. He's into 4th. He's quite a long way behind the others. Hales did a 17.5 second stop in the box. That was a good 3.6 seconds slower than Anthony DiVincenzo, who's only spent 13.9 in the box. That's very short.
Yeah, very much so. Just getting enough fuel to the end. Hopefully they managed enough fuel. That's going to be, of course, the final variable is if you did put in enough of that crucial liquid to get you down to the end. You don't want to be running out in the final corner. We've seen it a few times in the past. Drivers miscalculating that strategy just in the wrong direction. Still, a couple drivers needing to pit, though. Lisa Eskridge and a few others. So they'll have a very short stop just putting in the required fuel to the end, back out on circuit, and going to the checkered flag.
So Dave Douglas leads after the pit stop phase with Joshua Jefferson nearly 5 seconds behind, and up 5 seconds behind is Anthony DiVincenzo. He's made his way out of the pit box. Then it's Alan Hales. Patrizio Torrigiani still ahead of Robert Galles now. We're back inside the top 5. Then Jeffrey Block is holding off Vernon Messer here for 7th place. That's what you're watching at the moment. Alex Lippach has got back out in 9th place ahead of Ed Trippett, with Johan Knight taking his fast repair back out onto the circuit immediately. He's recovered quite well from that. He's now 11th ahead of Lisa Eskridge, who still hasn't stopped actually, so she'll drop down behind Robbie Kerwin, Jack Stevenson, and maybe Nicholas Donohue as well, who had that speeding penalty, we believe, on the way in. There's a slow-mo replay of Johan Nye and his crash. Let's hope he's not watching this back later. He'll see himself twice hitting the wall.
It looked really epic from that camera angle until it didn't, and then the Porsche engineers are going to be very upset that they have to make those repairs throughout the next evening here. Of course, it being virtual, you don't got to worry about that, but either way, not too happy with the way that his night has gone, and this will be one to forget. That was who was that? Was that Jeffrey Block there going a little deep off the circuit and trying to defend his position quite well? There's another angle there of the from Nicholas's spin. Thankfully, he does not collect the barrier, just ends up with a bit of tire wear.
There's a few bits of stones and stuff back onto the circuit, but he's okay. Yeah, I think it was Block. He's trying to defend here from Vernon Messer for 7th place, and so far putting up a good defence. Just over 14 minutes to go. We're very much in that stage of the race now where you know exactly what you've got to do for the position that you're fighting for, and I'm afraid for Nicholas Donohue this is really starting to fall apart. Another spin down. He's now a lap down in 15th place.
Yeah, and yeah, fair enough. Oh, I thought, was that a return to the garage or no? If it was, I can totally understand. If not, I envy him continuing the efforts out on track, but it is certainly going to be his drop round, no questions asked. The rest of the drivers there, we can see positions gained, and Anthony DiVincenzo tied for the biggest mover up into third position. Jeffrey Block, he's carved his way through the field as well, up 5 positions. 3 for Vernon Messer, and everybody else 4 positions actually for Rob Gerwing. I missed that. Great effort from him from basically 17th position up to 13th. Everyone else barely, well, climbing up a bit and moving down a bit, as you would expect in a motor race. And Torrigiani is the only driver to remain where they are.
As Alex Hillman, Andrew Hillman got stuck in the wall. I thought he'd got welded to the barrier there, as he sometimes can do. On a rare occasion, to be fair. It doesn't happen very often anymore, but he got away with that, and he even got his front bumper back again as well, so he'll continue on in 17th. Torrigiani still under pressure here from Robert Gallas, to be fair, and after his great move down here at turn 3 earlier on, he's suddenly under pressure down here. This is a good race between these two. They've got a long distance ahead and behind them, and they're using it right now to battle away. Torrigiani on the defensive for, I think, the first time we've seen tonight.
Yeah, the shoe is now on the other foot, and Gallus, I was keeping an eye on the gaps when we came out of pit lane. The gap was about 2.5 seconds. Since then, he has climbed his way back up. His previous lap was a little bit slower than Torrigiani by about 0.3 of a second, but Gallus has gone for the gold here, at least rather P5. That's going to be his best efforts here, and with that, Torrigiani, the Italian stallion, we know what he can do on offense. We can only imagine what he's going to do on defense, and with 12 minutes left, Ewan, this is going to get electric.
This is going to get very exciting indeed, unless Torrigiani is just going to drive away. I mean, look at the car lengths he's putting in to Robert Gallas at the moment. This is impressive stuff, as that purple comes across the top of your screen there for Dave Douglas, who's just set the fastest lap of the race again, 44.2 for him that time round. Now, I'm just going to reconsult the qualifying standings, because that, I believe, is a good 5 tenths quicker than the best. Oh, sorry, no, it's a 43.7, not a 44.7. I apologise. I will take that back. That's Alex Lidback back down to 10th place. Johan Nye will catch him up. Ed Trippett now into 9th place.
Yeah, Alex Lidback there taking a little excursion off into the rough stuff, unfortunately. Just handing a little bit more time to the circuit gods, as he did in pit lane, missing his pit box, and then having just a bit of an unforced error into the grass. This battle for 7th is now on. Well, it's been on for a while. Jeffrey Block, we know, is the defensive masterclass here of Portimao, and Vernon Messer, we haven't seen too many overtakes from them. There's that Alex Lidback spin, a little bit hot into the corner, and a little bit early on the accelerator was a recipe for not a good time, Ewan.
Yeah, that was Ed Trippett in the blue and white, just nipping around his outside and getting up to 9th place. So this battle will continue on for 7th. They've got Trippett a bit closer than I imagined, actually. They've got Galles and Torrigiani just up 10 seconds up the road or so from them as well. But it's going to be a case of whether Messer can actually find his way through here. Going to be very, very difficult for him to do so, as Lisa Eskridge comes into the pit lane. I think that's first pit stop of the day, going nearly 50 minutes here.
Yep, that is Lisa's first and final stop of the evening. A nice 10-second stop there, and going to be back out on circuit. Quick splash and dash, no real issues to be had, and she will be rejoining in 14th position, right ahead of Andy McEwen, and behind Jack Steffens.
Yeah, he's just on the lead lap, Jack Stevenson, at the moment, by the way. And Lisa Eskridge going to have a lot of lap traffic to deal with herself. That is Joshua Jefferson right in behind at the moment in 4th place. There's the pic. Do you know what those characters are on the front? I've forgotten.
The Powerpuff Girls. Come on, Ewan, what are you on about here? The sugar, spice, and everything nice is Lisa Eskridge. I
do not know popular culture, so that was totally lost on me there. Thanks very much for the well, having the knowledge, to be honest, because I certainly didn't. So there we go. Just letting through Joshua Jefferson there, who has lastly lost quite a lot of time to Dave Douglas now, nearly 10 seconds with just under 9 minutes remaining in this race. Dave Douglas very much controlling this race. Mike, I know you've got to leave us in a sec, but just give us your thoughts before you head off in about these final 9 minutes of what we've seen so far from this man.
I am extremely excited to see what's going to happen between Gallus and Torrigiani. That is the battle of the century right now, in my opinion, because Torrigiani, ever since he had Gallus encroach the back bumper, he's gapped him again, and I think that's mainly due to Gallus placing the car wrong. But if he can get his feet together here with the next 8 minutes left, it is going to be an all-out war between the 14 and the 809. Everybody else is pretty much plucked away to secure themselves the position that they're going to finish in, barring any mistakes. Anything can happen in racing, and it normally does. Dave Douglas leading Josh Jeppesen and Anthony DiVincenzo fairly solid with their intervals right now, and everybody else behind. This man on screen, though, he's the one that I'm asking all the questions on right now.
Yeah, what a fantastic entertainer Patricio Torrigiani has been so far today. 5th place in the race for now, and moving on up just a little bit wide there through the final corner on that occasion. So there we go. He's pushing hard, that's for sure. But so far, a top 5 looks to be the result for him. Just under 7.5 minutes remaining. Remind you, one final time that we're delighted to have Princess Cruises as the 2025 PCA title sponsor, as the official cruise vacation partner of Series 13. They provide exclusive offers, including world-leading itineraries across a fleet of 16 elegant ships, sailing to more than 330 global destinations. Reach out to the PCA concierge team to book your next adventure today by calling 833-679-2188. Big thanks to Mike Naus, who's been with me for most of this race and this round of the Porsche Club America Challenge class here tonight. I'm Ewan O'Leary, taking you through the final moments of the race. Ramiro Augustin Cisneros is controlling the pictures you're watching at the moment. Jeffrey Block controlling this battle right now. He's got Vernon Messer and Ed Trippett behind. Have a look at it from the air. Ed Trippett here really closing in, actually, on these two and looking for more. He had a decent race, as I mentioned earlier, at Daytona. He did come into contact with Jeffrey Block at Daytona, as in the opening 10 laps or so of the race, in the opening minutes of the race, he had a couple of spins through the International Horseshoe, one of which was because of Jeffrey Block, one of which was because of himself. He's now back in the top 10 again, though, here, and looks like he's going to finish higher than he did 2 weeks ago, which is, I guess, always the objective. Unless he finishes first, of course, and then it's not possible. Down in towards turn 1. He's looking the raciest here of those in this battle. Vernon Messer will be feeling the pressure. Less than 3 temps. Will Trippett have a dive here? Torrigiani style. No, not quite. We'll have to start calling that a Torrigiani, I think, after his great move, in case you weren't with us a few moments ago, down in towards turn 3. It's expertly executed earlier on in the day. Here comes Trippett again, down on the brakes at turn 5. He's not quite willing to risk it all and lick the stamp and send it just yet. Although often when people say that, it normally means carnage, but when Torrigiani did it earlier on, it was expertly executed. This is the only battle really going on the circuit now for 7th place. We've got a good 10 seconds up ahead of us, and Lidback is 6 or 7 seconds behind us there in 10th. So they've got plenty of time to think about this themselves. This is the final one of our onboard cameras that we've not had a look at today. Rob Gerwin, who's currently in 12th place. Got a nice set of tyres, if they're used or spare, in the background. VR headset, looks into the corner. I know a lot of people normally do, even if they're on a flat screen, look into the apex almost subconsciously. You do actually have to look in VR, obviously, otherwise you won't be able to see where you're going, especially through a corner like turn 5, which, by the way, in English just means VIP tower. I thought it was Toro VIP, but that's to any Portuguese speakers listening, that's just probably painfully bad. Apparently it's not what it means. In towards turn 1, here comes Ed Trippett, and that was Vernon Messer very much letting that one happen. Ed Trippett down the inside. He's up to 8th place. Has he got the time here to battle past Jeffrey Block? He's got just under 4 minutes to do it here, but that probably means 3 laps, considering where Dave Douglas is around the circuit. That probably gives him another 3 laps, including the one that they've just begun. Here's a look down in towards turn 5 at that tower, which gives this corner its name. Using a long layout on the way down towards here, of course, because it's much better for cars. Much better for overtaking. Through 7 and 8, you've just got to really make one corner, to be honest, around this circuit. Getting the traction up over the top of the hill. Uphill traction zone's always tricky before you pull down the other side. And look at this, Trippett getting right in the mirrors here. Looking to almost pass Block without doing anything. Hoping that he makes a mistake. He's on a different line on the way through into the third last corner, and here he goes. Oh, he could have had a dive down the inside if he wanted to. Through turn 13. But he decided to just wait for the moment. Now in towards Sagres, which I thought was a beer. Maybe it still is. Out of the penultimate corner. He's got to get a better exit than that. He's given up loads of time through Sagres. And now out over the straight. He's got an awful lot of work to do. 2 laps to go for these two. 3 even. Just over 2 minutes to go. Dave Douglas will be taking the white flag in just about a minute's time. And maybe Jeffrey Block will be taking 7th place in just that amount of time as well. He's gone wide though. Oh, he had a bit of breathing space. He's given it all up. Here comes Ed Trippett on the outside line of turn 4. He's going to go for the cutback line. Oh, Block there. Knew that he had to send it into turn 4 to block the inside line, but he's not done well enough on the exit here. Ed Trippett so far in front, he's going to get back to the racing line in time for turn 5. His run to 7th place is complete. Ed Trippett has made up the places tonight, and he is up to 7th. A great race from Trippett to recover from adversity, much like he did 2 weeks ago. It was rather handed to him by Jeffrey Block, who put up a good defence through turn 4. And Trippett switched to the inside. It's a very good switch back, actually. He knew exactly the parameters of his own machine. Knew how not to get into the back of Jeffrey Block, which would have been very easy to do in that exchange. And he's able to get 7th place in the dying minutes of this race. Can Vernon Messer follow through and take Trippett's advice on passing him there? We've got less than a minute to go. The white flag is waving. Dave Douglas is on his final lap of the race, I believe, anyway. Could be quite close. There is Douglas, 40 seconds to go. In the California inland region, whatever that means. I presume that means California, not on the coast. Just a wild guess. 30 seconds to go. And surely a race victory. He took pole at Daytona with a spin at turn 1 on lap 2 on his own. And then he dropped down the field. Another spin later on with about half an hour to go meant that he only finished in 8th place. Well, bizarrely, the race that he didn't start on pole for is going to be the one he wins. Likewise, the opposite is true for Josh Jefferson. On pole for this one, 2nd place this time round, having won 2 weeks ago. He'll be the championship leader, but he'll be wary of Dave Douglas and his threat that he poses throughout this season. Through the final corner, and round 2 of the Porsche Club of America Sim Racing Series Challenge class is going to go to Dave Douglas in dominant fashion. Nearly 10 seconds of a victory. Better pace on the circuit. Nice overtaking, as well as a shorter pit stop, gives Dave Douglas a dominant victory here at the Algarve circuit. There's the smile on his face. He knows exactly what it means. Delighted with his performance to convert this time a front row start to a victory, and not to the chaos that we saw 2 weeks ago. Further behind in that battle, nothing changed, by the way, between Trippett, Block and Messer. They finish how they are. And you can tell Dave Douglas is delighted. He's clearly chatting with someone at the moment in the sim. perhaps a race spotter. There goes that battle for 7th place, by the way, over the line. Trippett pleased with his day. He's up 3 from where he finished last time out. Jeffrey Block takes his first top 10 of the season. He just missed out last time out. And Vernon Messer takes part in his first race of the season, so therefore is his first top 10 as well. Dave Douglas takes victory here at Portimao with Joshua Jefferson 9.6 seconds behind at the line. Anthony DiVincenzo saw off at Alan Hales for 3rd, with Patrizio Torgiani racing his way back to 5th. Robert Callis couldn't quite get past the 14 car towards the end there. Ed Trippett held off Jeffrey Block and Vernon Messer, as you just saw, and Alex Lidback rounded out the top 10. Just over a minute back, alongside Lidback, was Johan Nye, who really closed in at the end there. Not sure what quite happened. Rob Gerwin, Jack Stevenson, and Lisa Eskridge all finished 1 lap down. Annie McCune was 2 down. And Andrew Hillman, after disconnecting and leaving the session earlier on, finished 4 laps down. Nicholas Tonahue did retire after that latest spin at turn 8. And George Poulos retired pretty early on after hitting Jack Stevenson down at turn 5. Let's have a chat, first of all, to Anthony DiVincenzo. We'll work our way up from the bottom of the podium here tonight, since DiVincenzo is ready for us. First, welcome, Anthony. Congratulations on 3rd place here tonight at Portimao. Just tell us a little bit about that race and how pleased you are to be on the podium.
Oh, dudes, I am so stoked. This is my first podium in PCA, and I just really want to thank the organization, all the coaches, Joachim for helping me with data and telemetry. What a blast, man. I had a great time. I was tucked behind Alan for a while. I had to watch him, see where I was quick, see where I was slow. Got it a little, I was trying to bug him a little bit, and I think I got him. I had a good pitch strategy, and I just want to say thanks again. And man, Dave Douglas, that guy was fast today. I think they should impound his car. It's either acid dipped or he got overnight parts from Japan. Yeah,
no post-race scrutineering, unfortunately, but there we go. We'll enforce it. Now, just tell us a little bit about that overtake on Alan Hales. It was a battle we were in for a little while, and you did get 3rd place basically as a result of that. So tell us a little bit about how you worked your way past him.
You know, he had a really good pace, and there was a second there where I kind of lost him. You know, I was behind him and just kind of watching. I really felt like he had me a little bit on the first sector of the track, but I saw that I started to have to hold back and actually draft down the straight. And then I think, honestly, I was really trying to get under his skin. That was my strategy. I was like, let me see what I could do here to kind of make him feel funky. And I think I made him feel really funky, man. I think he was on that Funktown roller coaster, and eventually it gave way, and then, you know, I started to see him drift back. And then, you got to say, after the pit, I saw he was about 7 seconds behind, so I wouldn't be surprised to hear that maybe he had a little mix-up with his crew chief. Maybe he took too many tires. But it was a real good time, man, and he's fast. And so I was really happy to get around him, and then I just had clean air. So I just put the pedal to the metal until I saw that checkered flag.
Well, congratulations on seeing that checkered flag in 3rd place, and thanks for coming to chat to us after the race as well.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate what you do.
Thanks very much. Anthony DiVincenzo there, 3rd place here tonight at Portimao. Joshua Jefferson's still getting himself sorted out, I think, so we'll chat to the race winner next. Dave Douglas taking his first race victory of the season. Congratulations on that, Dave. Give us your emotion as you crossed the line there and took the victory for the first time this season.
Thanks, Ewan. This has been amazing. This is my first ever win in PCA. I started in season 10, and I couldn't have done it without the amazing people. This has been the greatest community ever. Big shout out and thanks to Doug Atkinson, Michael Patterson, and my spotter tonight, Joachim Baker. It was absolutely, this is awesome.
Yeah, but before we get onto the race, tell us a little bit about that journey through the last few seasons and you progressing to what you believe has helped you progress to this point where you're on the top step tonight.
Yeah, thank you. No, it was, I got my first Porsche, joined the Porsche Club of America, and over time discovered all the different great things that are part of Porsche Club of America and sim racing. The sim racing league was a new one. And I got excited about that and learned more about it. Ultimately did an investment into some of the equipment and things to get started. And really just fell in love with the community. The teachers and the folks that do all the track walks and the instructions, they're very patient and they keep teaching along the way. And season by season, I got a little bit better and a little bit better. And over time, here I am. It's my first ever podium, and it's a victory. And couldn't have done it without this community. There's so many great friends I've made over the last several seasons.
And more specifically on this race, how was your battle with Joshua Jefferson? Certainly early on, you two racing each other really hard first half hour.
Oh my goodness, Joshua was living rent-free in my head, man. It was just nonstop, like in terms of where he was in front of me, and then when I was able to get past him, it was really a battle to try to make sure I kept my eyes forward and not worrying about what was behind me. But it was hard.
Well, congratulations on coming out on top in the fight, and thanks for coming to chat to us as well.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for doing this.
Thanks very much. Dave Douglas there in first place tonight here at Portimao. I believe Josh Jefferson has got himself sorted out. No promises on this, but we'll give him a go from second place. Joshua Jefferson joining us now. Joshua, can you hear us? Have you got a copy? Doesn't sound like he can quite hear us, unfortunately, at the moment. I'm not sure his microphone is quite working, so unfortunately we'll have to chat to him another time. But Daytona race winner Joshua Jefferson will be the championship leader, Joshua Jefferson, after round 2 of this championship, because he's accumulated enough points to do so. He'll carry that into Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, which we'll be visiting in 2 weeks' time. You're very welcome to join us on February the 13th. From 9 p.m. Eastern Time, where we'll be broadcasting the Challenge class. But don't forget, on Wednesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, we'll be here with the Pro class and the Club classes on Thursday night next week as well. So make sure you join us for both of those as well. Been a pleasure to have you along this time around. I've been O'Leary alongside Mike Nowes in the commentary box, and Ramiro Augustin Cisneros has been behind the cameras this week in the Porsche Club America Sim Racing Series 13. Big thanks to everyone who's tuned in. We'll see you next week in Canada for round 3. Goodbye for now.